So x1 plus x2 plus s1 plus 0s2 is equal to 10. Then 2x1 plus, ano dapat to? Sorry. Plus 3x2 plus 0s1 plus 2s2 is equal to 20. And then this is the objective function. We should negate this function into, we should negate this by transferring these values to the other side. So this will be negative. Then second step is form a simplex table. So x1 here, x1, x2, then s1, then s2. Then the constants. So perform here. And the z. The z. Let's put in the bottom. The negate objective function. The next step is the pivot column. To find the maximum negate of objective function is negative 3. Negative 3 is the maximum negative of the objective function. This is the objective function. So since negative 3 is belong to the x2 column, so this is already our pivot column. So the next step is the pivot row. To know the pivot row, we take the least positive ratio of RHS over x2 columns. So RHS divide our pivot column. So 10 divided 1 is 10, 20 divided 3 is 2 over 20, and 0 is 0. So 20, 2 over 3 is our pivot row because 20 over 3 is less than 10. The next step is make the pivot value 1 by dividing the row by the pivot value. So here, this is already our pivot value. Let's make it 1. So divide 3 is equal to, is equal to 1. It should be 1. 1. So let's perform that here. 2 into 2, 0, 1, 20. So we have here, these are the values after we divide it by 3. The next step is to make this value 0. So to make that value 0, we should minus 1 times the value of R3 here. According to this formula, I mean R2, the value of row 2 is 1. So let's multiply it by 1. So it gives us 0. Gawin natin yan dito sa values na to. So we get this after we subtract it by 1 times multiplied by the value of R2, which is the row 2. This is the row 2. This is the row 1. So to get the Zj, we have the summation of Cb times Xn. So 0 times 0 plus 3 times 2/3 is 2. Then 0 times 0, 3 times plus 3 times 1 is 3, and so on. We get these values. To get the Cj, 2, this is the value of Cj. So 2 minus 2 is 0. Then 2 minus 3 is 0, and so on. So the next step is check optimality of the Cj minus Zy if it is greater than or equal to 0. And if not, then go back to the step 3. Then since the value of our Cj minus Zj here is a negative 1, which is less than 0, we should go back to the step 3 here. Pivot column. To find the pivot column, let's check if where is the maximum negative. So the maximum negative is negative 1, which is belong to the S2 column. So this is already our pivot column. So next, to find the pivot row, this should be row. To know the pivot row, we take the least positive ratio of RHS over S2, because this is already our pivot column. So 60 divided by negative 1/3 is negative 180, then 20 over 3 divided by 1/3 is 20, and 0 divided by 1 is 0. So our pivot row now is this, because this is our least positive ratio. The next step is make the pivot value 1 by dividing the row by the pivot value. So our pivot value already here is this. So to make this 1, we should divide it by 1/3 here. This is the formula. 1/3. So 1/3 divided by 1/3 is 1. So let's apply this formula to here until here. So we get the 2, 3, 0, 1, 20. And here, to the row 1, we have a value of negative 1/3. So to make this as 0, we should add 1/3 from here, from this formula. So negative 1/3 plus 1/3 is already a 0. So let's apply this formula to these values. So we get 2/3, 1, 0, 0, 3,620 over 3. So the next step is to find the Cj. So Cj, Cb times xn, this is our xn, where n is any constant or number. So 0 times 1 plus 0 times 3 is 0. So since our Cb now is already a 0, the Cj already is 0. To get the Cj minus Zg, Cj 2 minus 0 is 2, 3 minus 0 is 3, and so on. So let's check if the value of our Cj minus Cj has a negative number. So there is none. So therefore, from the final simplex table, we can see that the minimum value of z